$2.3 million. That's how much more the cost of a death penalty case in the state of Texas costs taxpayers, according to the Dallas Morning News. That's 3 times more than imprisoning someone in a single cell by themselves at the highest level of security for 40 years. $2.3 million. In a time when it seems our country is always teetering on the brink of financial crisis, we really have to examine policies and procedures that use up those finite resources, and the death penalty is one of those policies. I'm not here to say that it's unfair or unjust for someone to be assigned the death penalty if they've killed someone. I don't harbor any sympathy for a convicted murderer. However, if a policy is ineffective or inefficient, we shouldn't continue to use it. The death penalty should be abolished because it does not deter crime and it costs states too much money. To begin, the death penalty does not deter crime. Murder rates in states without the death penalty is actually higher than murder rates in states with the death penalty is higher than it is in states without the death penalty. According to the FBI's Crime in the United States report published in 2010, states with the death penalty had a homicide rate of 5.0. States without the death penalty had a homicide rate of 4.01, which is 25% less. So that data shows us that there's no correlation. If you have the death penalty, you have a higher homicide rate, it appears. It does not help reduce your homicide rate. The death penalty is no more of a deterrent than life without parole. People who commit crimes typically fall into 2 categories. There's those that premeditate the crime. In this case, they've already think that they can avoid being detained, so that's why they've committed the crime. The other much larger category of people are those that have acted in a moment of passion or anger, or they're under the influence of alcohol and drugs. These people are not rational at the time they're committing the crime. They're not stopping to think, oh, I was going to do that, but I'm afraid of the death penalty, so I'm not going to continue with the crime. Either way, no one is stopping to consider the death penalty. Evidence has shown that life without parole is just as, for people that it will deter, it is just as effective at deterring them from committing a crime. In a report published in Northwestern University School of Law, the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology, 88% of criminologists surveyed do not believe the death penalty acts as a deterrent to homicide. In a 2008 poll, 500 police chiefs were asked, out of 10 choices, what's the most important for reducing violent crime? And they rated the death penalty as the last. They said that increased police, decreased drug abuse, and a better economy would all help reduce violent crime, but they all ranked the death penalty as being the least effective method. In addition, the death penalty is an ineffective practice because of the cost. The cost is outrageous, and it puts a huge burden on already stretched state budgets. According to a 1993 Duke University report, the death penalty cost North Carolina $2.16 million over the cost of sentencing someone to life without parole. So that means you already have the cost here that's associated with that case for life without parole. You have to add another $2.16 million to it to get the cost of what it would cost to try someone for the death penalty. To bring this a little closer to home, in the article Economy of Executions published in 2009, Louisiana State Attorney General Buddy Caldwell said that Louisiana is limiting its use of the death penalty because of the cost. He said that he could try a second-degree murder trial in which the death penalty would not be an option for $15,000 to $20,000. But to use for a trial the death penalty is an option, it would cost around $250,000. So that's from $20,000 to $250,000. Some of the reasons why it costs so much more to try someone for the death penalty is there's a 2-stage trial process, and you have to pay for the judge for both those trials, the jurors, they have to be sequestered and fed, and then you have the police officers, and you have the defense attorney and the public prosecutor. All these people that have to put all this time that are paid by the taxpayers into all the extra stages, and we have to have these extra stages to a death penalty case so we don't, convict someone that's innocent of a crime and put them to death, but these extra procedures come with a very hefty price tag. There's a lot of data from California about the death penalty. 1, because there was just a recent report done about their judicial system, and 2, because they have the largest death penalty population, which is 704 inmates. According to a report published by U.S. Ninth Circuit Judge Arthur Alcaron and Loyola Law School professor Paula Mitchell, California taxpayers have spent $4 billion on capital punishment since it was reinstated in 1978. They also found that the least expensive death penalty case cost $1.1 million more than the most expensive life without parole case. That means that you're looking at a minimum difference of $1.1 million to convict someone for the death penalty versus life without parole. According to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, since 1978, 54 death row inmates have died of natural causes. 18 have committed suicide, 14 have been executed, and 6 have died of other causes. That means that all that money was spent to put them on death row, and 54, which is way more than the 14 that were executed, died of natural causes. Now, if they'd been given life without parole, not only would the state have saved that minimum $1.1 million, they also would have died of natural causes. So you're getting the same result, but you're saving a lot more money by using life without parole. Some people think that the death penalty is useful and should still be kept because it provides closure for families. But not all victims' families feel that the death penalty is the best way to get that closure. California Crime Victims is an organization that's made up of family members and loved ones that have lost someone to a violent crime. And they say that the death penalty can actually prolong the process for people on occasions. That's because the death penalty process takes so long. It takes 10, 15, 20 years for someone from the date they were convicted to actually being executed. That means that all this time they have to go back to court for another appeal, another trial, all these instances where they cannot put the situation behind them. Also, something that really bothers the families is they feel that the killers are put in kind of a spotlight, that the media shows them a lot of attention and kind of glorifies them in a way, and the spotlight's taken off of the victim, which is where it should be. This particular organization feels that life without parole does provide a swift, severe punishment, and it gives families closure because they know when they leave that courtroom, they're going to be in jail for the rest of their lives. They're not going to hurt anyone else, and they can start to move on. In conclusion, the death penalty is an ineffective practice because it does not deter crime and it costs too much money. The death penalty is a punishment, it's not a deterrent. And this is not a question of philosophy or morality, it's simply a question of how much you're putting into something and what you're getting out of it. Compared to life without parole, the costs are staggering. Like I said, a minimum of $1.1 billion difference in California. So if they're only going to die of natural causes anyway, it makes sense to save that money for the state and give them life without parole. That extra money could be used for more cops, to solve unsolved crimes, to give to the victims' families to help them, to help help make the financial debt of the state better. Regardless of your personal feelings about revenge, its simple fact is that the states cannot afford to keep using the death penalty. Thank you.